Hello and welcome back. If you have been here before and if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel in general. Either way, if you haven't already, please make sure to click the like and subscribe button below. It helps the channel grow and again helps me be motivated to continue to post content to know that people are out there listening. Today we're going to do a topic that I've been waiting to do for a while. It is a topic that is important to me, one that I feel I have a lot to offer, and one that I really hope that I get right. You may not know, and again, I'm an amateur at best when it comes to recording and doing content. I do all these in monologue format. I do not do these in segments. They are one take from start to finish. So I hope that I get it right, and if I'm 20 minutes in and I don't, then technically speaking, I'd have to start all over again. So with that said, I hope I get this one right because it's one that I'm very passionate about and one that I believe can be helpful and one that I'm excited to share about. So we're going to talk today about just tips and good advice for young job seekers and folks that are looking to start their career. Very important topic to me, one that means a lot to me as a person, as an employer, in every stage of my life or phase of my life. It's an important topic for me, and I'm excited to do it. So why am I doing it? I'm doing it for a whole lot of reasons, and my hope is that I can have an impact on some folks that may see this. I'm hoping that it may give somebody some guidance they might need. I'll also say that this will be a pretty lengthy video. I'll try and keep it brief, but I will put a detailed description that has the topics themselves, the key points I'm covering, as well as a link to the resume that I will reference. So if you're looking for the short, babbling version, because I'll get going, as you know, you can certainly look in the description and get the content you're looking for and have a link to the resume. If you're here to listen to me talk about it, then keep on going, and you can forego that description and maybe use it for later. So I know for me, nobody ever really sat down and had this talk with me. And it doesn't mean that I don't have wonderful parents. I love my mom and dad. I really do. They're great people. They were great influences on my life and people I look up to, especially in the workplace, but through example. It wasn't as if it was something from like a sitcom and, or Leave It to Beaver type show or any modern, version of that where my father sat down and said, "Son, let me explain to you how you get a job and do a resume." It just wasn't like that, and it didn't need to be like that. That's okay. My father's a wonderful person and showed me a lot, as is my mom, and she did as well. Both had great careers, as I said earlier. For me, I've worked hard to get here. I've ultimately been out on my own since I was about 18 and have done a lot to get to this point. I have worked retail jobs. I've worked entry-level jobs. I have, worked 3 jobs at one time, multiple shifts at different times to get here, and I feel like I have some good experience to share. And I'm hoping maybe somebody who is looking to start their career and isn't quite sure how to do so, or maybe it's a parent or a friend who doesn't quite know how to give that guidance, and they say, "Hey, listen to that All I Can Bear guy. He has a good video on how to go ahead and get started in pursuing your career." I'm doing it for that reason alone. If even one person were to benefit from this advice, if you knew me, you'd know that would make me happy. Also, just one person, that's all it would take for me to feel like I did good here. I will say, from a family perspective, maybe someday, as I'm long gone, maybe it's a grandchild who's starting their career, or a niece or nephew, or great niece or nephew that's starting their career, and maybe they want to heed these pieces of advice that I have, or warnings and advice that I have to give. And again, that's my reason for doing this. It's important to talk about briefly my background in hiring, and I'll admit, for me, whenever I do the business content, it's a little bit awkward in the sense that I want to really do remain humble in what I talk about, but I also want to make sure folks that are out there watching know that this is not me just giving opinions based off what I read or what I've seen or just sort of making things up as I go. I've been doing this for a long time. I do run a business. I have been interviewing for close to 30 years. On the business front, I started, which is a whole nother episode, by the way. I started on my own as me as the only employee, and now we have close to 50 employees doing multi-million dollars in business in multiple states for a couple decades. So I've been doing this for a while, and I have some pretty good background in doing so. I interviewed and hired for Hewlett-Packard, other organizations. So I've been at this a while, and I have looked at thousands of resumes, interviewed so many candidates, and have hired quite a few along the way, and have helped start people's careers and allow them a opportunity to then use their skills to grow their careers, probably more importantly. So what are we trying to do when we're trying to get a job, or when we're trying to go through the process of getting a job? Two components, the resume and the interview. In my opinion, again, in my experience, we're trying to do two things. Number one, we're trying to get an interview. We want to get our foot in the door, and we want to have them sit down with us and be willing to talk about who we are and what our experience is, right? If we can get there, we say, boy, I can hopefully have them say I'm someone worth hiring, right? So number one, how do we get past all the resume part that they're going to look at, right? To then get you to be able to do an interview. And in the interview, how do we get someone who's interviewing to like us, to want to hire us, to put their trust in us as an employee to do the job they're hiring us for? Understand that employers of any level, big organization, small organization, they are really looking to hire someone that can hopefully do a good job for their organization and help it grow or be successful for their clientele. They want and need you to do a good job too. They're taking a chance. They're looking to invest in someone. You want them to get a feeling that you're a person worth investing in and you're a person worth hiring for that job. So remember, two things. One, we want to get the interview. Two, we want them to like us in that interview. And I have to say, this is going to sound so cliche, but I swear I mean this bottom of my heart. There are things about you, no matter who you are that's watching this, that are no doubt likable. Trust me on that. I really, really mean that so much. You want them to know what those are, right? And what those qualities are that you possess that are likable. And it could be a matter of just you're a hard worker, you really want to do well. Maybe you're motivated financially. Maybe you're just trying to get yourself on your feet. You're honest, you care. Whatever it is, you want them to see that, you want them to know that, and you want them to feel that in the interview. So again, how do we get there to the point that we do it? So first thing to understand is that the employer that you're more than likely trying to get to interview you is looking at a lot of resumes. I just recently did a few hires, and I want to say for the one hire, I looked at about 86 resumes just off the bat, right? Just off the bat, I sifted through 86 resumes. I want to say we probably sent an invite out to interview about 12 of them, and wound up doing about 6 second interviews and wound up hiring the one candidate. I think in that case I hired 2 people, which was a real blessing that I had 2 people to pick from, and we went ahead and looked at the finances and were able to hire 2. So understand, for me it was a long process, and it'll be that process for the employers that you're looking to interview with. So knowing that they have that many resumes to look through and that they have that much of a task and undertaking, you have to say to yourself, how is my resume one of the ones they look at that they at least want to do an interview with, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through the resume format, and we're going to go through things, some do's and don'ts. So do's and don'ts, number one, I'll say this is more of a don't. You don't want your resume, regardless of your experience, because again, this is for kind of basic job seekers. I know this would probably work for most job seekers as well, but it really lends itself more towards the entry-level job seeker. You don't want your resume to just look like all that you've done is, I went to school, I then went to more school, and here I am with my school diplomas waving them in the air saying, where's my job? I can guarantee you, regardless of how motivated you are or are not, you've probably done more than just those 2 things. You want your resume to show that. You want your resume to show who you are. We'll get into those specifics. But when you're new to your career, when you're new to starting a career, you don't have a lot to put on there. In my case, if I put a resume together, it's almost kind of awkward meets imposter syndrome. It's like, did this job at Hewlett Packard, North and South American this, and business owner that, and millions of dollars of this. My resume, I feel comfortable putting a lot of kind of meat on the bone on a resume because I have all the experience to draw from. But when I was in my 20s or when I was starting my career, I had nothing, right? So how do I have my resume look like I have things to offer based off who I am and what I have done to get to that point? So you don't want your resume just to show, I did the minimum, here I am, can I have my job that I think I deserve, or at the pay I think I should get? Have them look at all the qualities you bring to the table and all the things you've done to get there. You want your resume to be professional, clean, and with nice formatting. I'll get resumes, and again, I don't say this to knock anybody. I'm certainly not going to mention or bring up any resumes I've looked at. Sometimes I get resumes, and it's almost like we're texting each other and we're buddies. Do you know what I mean? They're using text language, they're using, kind of shorthand, if you will. It's no real formatting, no bulleting, no underlining, no bolding. It's just kind of a big mishmash of words and paragraphs and sentences. And number one, that's hard to sift through as an employer. Number two, it sends a message. Does that person care enough about themselves, their resume, and their experience to put something nice together for me to look at, right? Or any employer to look at. So you want it to look good. You want it to be clean and nice and with proper formatting. Again, in the description below, I will put a link to a resume I made that is real fundamental, that I believe covers the basics of how you can get an employer to at least see some things you want them to see about you. You could fancy it up as much as you like. Some people have colored formatting and all kinds of artsy type things, and that's fine too. Believe me, that's not a bad thing. But I'm looking at it through the eyes of an employer that has to sift through a lot of resumes. You only get it for a couple seconds when you get those eyes on it, and you want to make sure it kind of pops out and lets them see the things that you want them to see, right? And on that topic, I do want to say, as a person who reviews resumes, there are times where a resume might make it only 4 seconds that I open it. I'm just being full disclosure here as an employer for a long time. I'll open a resume, and if right off the bat, the formatting's a lot to look at, it's hard to discern. There's clearly grammar, spelling, just unprofessional. When I'm 60 resumes deep worth of reviewing, I just don't have the time. And I don't mean that like I'm self-important, I don't have the time. I actually don't have the time to sit there and say, well, let me take the time to figure out what they were trying to convey. It is your job as a job seeker to convey the message you want to the employer. So I have some resumes, I swear I might look at them for 4 seconds, and I close them and I move on. And I will tell you, I do not open them again, period. That's it, one shot. Some resumes will sit there and boy, I'm looking through all kinds of cool stuff, right? I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm even rereading some things that I like seeing. So again, your format will say a lot to keep their interest and let them see the things you want them to see. You want to use job descriptions, again, on the resume. You also want to use job descriptions that speak to what you did, especially if they're pertinent and relative to the industry. So as an example, let's say I worked in college at the library, and I'll admit I'm in IT, so I'm going to use IT examples. If I worked at the library and I did technical services, I don't want to just mention that I was a library assistant or a library, helper, because that doesn't really grab the attention of someone who wants to see that they have some experience in the field I'm looking to get in. So I'll want to put in there library technician assistant, library IT support specialist. Now all of a sudden, as that, someone like me is just going through real quick through the resume, I'm saying, wait a minute, IT technician, what did they do there? Ooh, I see this. Okay, they were doing PC stuff and printer stuff and network stuff. Now I'm talking the language that they want to see to show I have experience in the field. Again, this is with a limited amount of resume, right? You're new to your career, you're just getting started, you don't have a lot to offer. Make sure you're speaking to those things that you want to make sure that you get them to see, right? And if you've put the time in to have that job, to have that internship, to work while also carrying a college schedule or a trade school schedule or whatever it is that you did, you want them to know that, right? Don't be shy about that. Put it in words that they can see what you did that was pertinent to the field. So use very clear job descriptions, right, that speak to what you did. Again, we don't want to embellish, and I said this before, we all know that people embellish to a degree on their resumes. And employers know. It's like a game that we all play, like nobody knows that we do this. We all know we do this. But you want to be honest, right? You don't want to lie on your resume, certainly, because that will not end well for you. But you also want to make sure that you're given the best shot that you can at representing the things that you've done, right? I mentioned before about being that technician at the library. That's valid experience. Don't sell yourself short by just putting that, I had a job at the library, right? It's not about that. It's about making sure that you can, show off, if you will, and or demonstrate the things that you did that invested in career knowledge, right? Opposite side of that spectrum, unrelated jobs to the field are more than okay, and put those too, right? Because they say a lot about you as a person, right? There's the skill that they want to see, but there's the person they want to get to know, and they want to know who you are. Understand that if someone's looking to hire a less experienced job seeker, They already know that you're not bringing 3, 5, 7 years of experience. They're not looking to see a whole wealth of experience. If they were, they would be interviewing for a different position, more than likely. If they're interviewing someone like yourself that is an early job seeker, there's things they're looking for beyond just experience. We get to demonstrate that by showing the unrelated jobs to your field. I have a couple examples for that that are real for me, people that we've hired. I had one gentleman we interviewed a long time ago. We were going through the interview, and when we were done, I said, is there anything else on your resume or not on your resume that you wanted to talk through? Maybe any other jobs that you had or any other things that you did? And he mentioned, yeah, I did work at XYZ grocery store for about a good 5 or 6 years. And I said, oh my God, tell me more about that. I went, what did you do there? I mean, 6 years, that's a career within itself, right? And he was talking about stocking shelves and cleaning floors and going to gather shopping carts and all that stuff. And he did that for 6 years. And I remember saying to myself, and this is important for you to understand, that may not be in the field that I'm looking to hire that person in, but boy, did that say a lot about him, that he took the time to hold that job for 6 years. Stable employment. They certainly had him back and had him as a trusted employee. And that says a lot about his work ethic, right? And I was so happy to hear that, because that shows that he can be dedicated to a job for a long, extended period of time, right? So great thing for him to put on his resume. And I said to him, I said, hey, going forward, make sure you put that on there. You're selling yourself short by not being able to tell that story of who you are in terms of work ethic and how you approach, your career and your employment. So please put that on there. And the other one I did was we hired a guy, and he actually still works here today. We had a guy who was working at a Wendy's, and he put that on there, and I loved that he did. So we were talking about his employment at Wendy's, and I said, talk about what you did there. Tell me about that experience. I think it's funny. I think people expect that potentially, we're only looking for the important career stuff or the experience in the field we're working in. Again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Not true. The non-pertinent employment you had speaks to who you are. So as I'm asking him what he did, the one thing he said to me that I probably still tell the story for the rest of my life, he mentioned that he was trusted to go outside and do some of the outside duties. Now understand, we're sitting here in my office, suit, tie, the whole thing, right? And I'm like, what do you mean by outside duties? Talk to me about that. He said, well, if you had to go outside and maybe change the sign, if you go look by a Wendy's or a Mickey D's, you see the sign that shows like the specials or happy holidays, whatever it is with all the letters on it, right? He would be the guy that they would trust to go out and change the sign and change the letters and change what was written on there. And I still at that point wasn't quite getting it. I was like, all right, well, tell me more about this. He said, well, they knew that if they sent other people out there, they might go out there and smoke or vape or hop on their phone or mess around. And they knew that I would, go out there and do the job and not mess around, and I would come back in and get it done. And I said, man, 2 things I love about that. Number one, they saw that in him as an employer. I don't care if he's working for a Fortune 500 company as an executive or if he's an entry-level fry guy at a Wendy's. They saw that in him, and now I see that in him by proxy, right? But then secondly, more importantly, he was proud of that, and he wanted me to know that, right? That has nothing to do with the field I was interviewing him for at all. But man, what a nice moment on an interview for me to hear him be proud of that, for me to see that in him, and right away I'm all in. I'm just all in on him as a person. And I say to myself, if I can take that skill that he has and that passion he has for doing the right thing and build on top of that an actual career position with a salary and benefits and growth and 401k and PTO and all that good stuff, man, I probably have a good hire on my hands, right? I did not get that by just talking about things that he did that was pertinent to the IT field. I got that by talking about a job at Wendy's. So put that out there if it says a lot of who you are and there's a good thing you can speak to in it, right? In addition, at the bottom of your resume, your personal information, hobbies and interests and clubs and things like that, absolutely put that out there. Again, you don't have a lot to work with, right? And again, I don't say that to be insulting. I say that because it's fact that we have to accept who we are and where we are in life and embrace that and show that, right? And who you are up until that point is represented by clubs you belong to. Maybe you volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. Maybe you helped a local organization pack lunches for kids that can't afford lunches. Maybe you worked at a church. Maybe you played a varsity sport. Maybe you were in chorus or band or whatever it is that you did. That shows who you are. And those things are important for an employer to know. I'll look at a resume and they'll put something on there like they're an Eagle Scout. And I will admit, I never was an Eagle Scout. I don't think I made that far in the Cub Scouts. I don't know if it's like Weebelows is about where I tapped out, but neither here nor there. When I see Eagle Scout, I know what that means they went to get to that point. When you get to the point of being an Eagle Scout, you worked hard and long to get there. You definitely did. You went through all the different thresholds. You got all the badges. You did all the things, and you did that also because you cared, because you wanted to aspire to have those values and do those things and be what an Eagle Scout is. Intangible, just off the charts, to no doubt about a candidate, because that speaks to who they are. Understand, as an employer, you can train the skills, and we do, by the way, right? You could teach someone the field that they're in if they have at least the fundamental knowledge. But man, as an employer, I'm hiring the person more than I am just the skills, right? If I have somebody that they were dedicated to 2 or 3 varsity sports where they learned how to play multiple instruments and sing, oh my God, that tells me so much about who they are, right? That speaks to the person that they are. And I say to myself, if they can do those things at that point in their life, and they had that full of an experience in their teen years and their high school and college years, that tells me a lot about who they are, right? So put that stuff on there. I'll talk later on how in the interview process, that's something you're going to want to talk about if given an opportunity to, because it gives you a chance to talk about who you are beyond just your job experience and your education, right? So your personal information, like your hobbies and interests and clubs and things like that, absolutely make sure that you have a section for that. Again, I'll have a mock resume up for you to look at, and you can see where that section goes, right? So let's say you've done all that. So you have your resume going, and somehow the key things that kind of popped out to an employer say, you know what, I'll have to interview this person, right? So let's say you've done that. Now you have the interview. You're getting ready for the big day, right? Again, I'm going to say this as someone who has interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over multiple decades for different organizations, Fortune 500 companies, as well as ones that I've owned. And I can tell you that these things are important regardless of industry, regardless of time. These are probably things that people valued 100 years ago. I don't know if the Egyptians interviewed 2,000 years ago, but if they did, they would value these things, trust me. So I'm going to talk about some things that are just must-dos, there's no doubt about it. And I'll talk about the big 3 that are the stage setters for the interview. So now you're about to get that interview, right? The big 3 are as follows. Dress appropriately. Just trust me, it's not even a question. There is no debating that. And here's why. You want to be represented by who you are, and you want them to see who you are. If you show up to an interview dressed inappropriately in a way that looks like you're flippant, maybe don't necessarily care as much, that's who you are the second that they see you, the second you walk in their door. And listen, I'm someone who roots for the interviewees. I believe in the good in people. I swear I do. But if someone turns the corner and walks in my office and they're looking like they didn't really care necessarily if they got up and dressed the appropriate way for an interview that I took time to dress for, even though I want them to be a good person, even though I'm rooting for them, human nature says I'm judging. I'm judging what they're wearing or what they might have, maybe what they should have worn, right? So make sure you have yourself represented by good attire. Regardless, again, this is like a whole nother episode stuff to talk about. My first suit that I interviewed in, I got from a Salvation Army. True story. I went and got it for free, and I proudly wore that suit, and I got that job, by the way, right? So there is no excuse. There really isn't for making sure that you're dressed appropriately. I had somebody I interviewed one time, and he came in. I don't want to get drastic and say he was in like an Iron Maiden t-shirt with like jeans with holes in them. It wasn't like that bad, but definitely not dressed for an interview. And not in any mean way, and not to put him on the spot. I just asked, if you don't mind me asking, I'm seeing you're dressed less than business casual. What gives? Like, what's the motivation there? Like, you knew you had your interview. I figured you want to bring the best version of yourself. What happened? And his answer was he was coming from another job and he didn't have a chance to get changed. And although I get that, I do understand that. When you're hungry, when you want that job, when you're really at a gut level trying to get your career started, if it's me, I'm changing the car. I'm changing in the bathroom at a convenience store. I'm doing whatever it takes to make sure I'm making myself look the way I need to look in a professional way for my interview. So that's one of the big 3. Number 2, be on time. I mean, I'm a stickler for being on time, almost too much. But I can tell you right now, if you show up late to an interview, You're, I'm sure, a wonderful person, hard worker, all those good things. You show up late, it's going to be really hard to recover from that, right? Because any employer is going to get the message that says, goodness, this person couldn't even show up on time for the interview. What's it going to be like when they're an employee? Are they going to be chronically late to work? Are they going to have a hard time being responsible and getting where they need to be when they need to be there? It's just no good. I'll have somebody who will come late and they'll apologize that the GPS took them the wrong direction, there were some one-way streets they weren't aware of, there was traffic, you name it. I don't care if you have to plan to get there 40 minutes ahead of time. And I mean that when I say that. Plan to get there early. If you're showing up late, it's just no good. It just doesn't work out. Trust me on that. And the last is, and this is this little quirky one for me, bring a printed copy of your resume, right? Number one, no one wants to walk into a situation like that empty-handed. Number two, for me, it says something nice about you caring about presenting your resume. Maybe you're spending a couple dollars at Staples for some stock paper, right? It's red, that nice cream colored paper that is a little bit more rigid, right? Maybe you have it in a little portfolio with maybe a copy of some certifications you got or a diploma or letters of reference. It just looks so nice to an employer that you took the time to do those things. And every little bit matters, right? You're trying to do every possible thing you can to have that employer want to potentially hire you. These are all part of it. I'm on time. I'm dressed appropriate. They'll ask, oh, do you have a copy of your resume? Oh, I sure do. Here you go. I'm going to let you in the secret. I always have a copy of the resume, right? Either we print it or I have it on my screen. But it just says so much when they took the time to make it nice, print it on nice paper, and bring it. Those little things go a long way. And to me, if you're looking to take your shot and you're looking to have that opportunity to get that job, why not leave it all out there, right? Why not spend a little bit just to print that resume, right? Now that you're in the interview and you've gotten past the big three, we'll talk about how to engage with dialogue with them, right? So first, you're going to be asked a lot of questions about your resume. They're going to go through work history. They're going to go through your education. They're going to ask you all kinds of just fundamental things. Oh, tell me why you left that job and tell me what you did at that job. And, oh, I see you went to high school here. How was that? What did you do? Those things are going to come up, right? When you're asked questions about your resume, specifically about jobs, etc., always take the opportunity to have your answer say more about you than what the resume says. And let me get real detailed here. If I worked at XYZ business and did XYZ job from this date to that date, they already know that because it's on the resume, right, that they're holding in their hand because I printed it and brought it to them, right? So they already know that. So if they ask me, oh, I see you worked at XYZ company from 2000 this to 2000 that, tell me a little bit about what you did there. Don't just spend that time talking about what they already know. Oh, yeah, so I was there back in so-and-so, and I had the position of such and such, and some of my duties were, your duties are already on the resume in bulleted format, right? Now's the time to sort of freelance a little bit and say, oh, yeah, at that job I was doing so-and-so, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about client interaction. I learned a lot about reporting to a supervisor. I had some teammates that I really liked, and I learned some responsibilities that I was able to take and was able to kind of on my own step up and do some things. I really liked that job, and I wished it they would have had an opportunity for me longer term, but I was moving and I wasn't. So get into some discussion about the job and what you like there, because the chronology, the job that you had, the place that you worked, that's just data. You want them to hear more about who you are, not just a reiteration of what you have on your resume, right? So make sure you take an opportunity, if asked about a particular job, to really broaden the dialogue beyond just the specifics of the position, right? And then lastly, as it relates to the dialogue, if they ask you if you had anything that you'd like to say or any questions that you have, the answer is just yes. Make no mistake. Trust me when I tell you, the answer is definitely yes. Here is your chance to do two things. We're going to talk about each. Number one, it's a chance for you to talk about things that they didn't ask about. You hopefully have put everything on your resume because you feel it speaks about who you are and you want them to ask about it. So if you put that you're an Eagle Scout and they don't ask, oh, now's your chance to tell them and say, hey, yeah, I know when you went to the resume, we didn't talk much about my hobbies and interests and other things I did in terms of, kind of life experiences. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my mission work that I did with Haitian refugees, or I'd like to talk to you about my Eagle Scout achievement that I had, and talk that through with them. Now you're giving them a chance to hear more about you beyond just the job stuff and things that we feel are important for them to know. They're getting to know more about who you are, what makes you tick, what your passions are, and people want to be pulled into that. When you're engaging with them about who you are and talking about those things that make you the person that you are today and all those experiences you went through, they're getting to know you more, they're getting to like you more. I talked about the fact that in the interview, we want them to learn to like you, and for good, honest reason, right? We're not trying to pretend our way into being liked. They're going to like the fact that you did that work. They're going to like the fact that, oh, you played a varsity sport. That's wonderful. That must have been a lot of hard work. Maybe they didn't. And they say, boy, was that really hard? How many years did you play varsity? And a lot of practices and a lot of sacrifices? Oh, absolutely. But I learned how to be a good teammate, and I learned how to work hard. I learned how to handle success gracefully, and I learned how to take loss well. Maybe sometimes I got a little bit frustrated, but I think in the end I took it gracefully too. So you get a chance to talk through those things. So if they ask you, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or anything you have for us, make sure you have a chance to talk about the things on your resume they didn't ask about. That's number one. Number two, ask them about them. Ask them about their company. It is no secret, right? I'm not, kind of coming up with anything real special here. People like to talk about themselves. Not in any way that's like ego-driven or anything like that. People feel comfortable. I love talking about myself. I love sharing stories. I love talking about my family and friends and all that stuff. It makes them feel comfortable. And they're usually happy and proud to talk about things that mean a lot to them. So when you ask them, how do you like working here? What do you like the most? What are some challenges that you face day to day? Oh, where's the company heading? Are you growing? Is this hiring part of new opportunity? They will be so happy to tell you those things, right? Now, all of a sudden, you've done a couple things. You've extended the interview longer. They're getting to know you more. They're getting more comfortable with who you are. They're getting more comfortable talking to you. And now you have them talking about something that makes it even more positive experience about themselves, about their coworkers, about their company that they're probably proud to work at because they're a manager who now has interview and hire authority. You can't go wrong asking them questions. You can ask your traditional questions, by the way, like, what type of benefits do you have? What's your PTO policy? What's the dress code? What hours you work? Feel free to ask those nice, qualified, and diligent questions that you'd want to ask in an interview anyway. But take a chance to ask them some things about themselves or about the company because it's going to make them feel comfortable. It's going to bring their guard down. You're inviting them to engage in personal dialogue with you in a way that will hopefully make them feel comfortable, and you'll probably leave a nice impression with them when you're done. So, you've done all that. We did the resume, we did the interview, we did the big three, dressing appropriately, we're on time, and we bring a printed copy of the resume. All the Q&A went well. So now what do we do? Do we follow up? Do we not follow up? Do we look too pushy, not pushy enough? Do we look like we care or not? The answer is, it is totally appropriate, and I won't argue for me, welcome to have a candidate follow up, right? When they follow up, it's always nice to get an email that says, oh, and believe me, after all this time, I still feel like a little imposter syndrome. They're like, oh, Mr. So-and-so. I'm like, I'll just call him by my name. But anyway, I get an email that says, Mr. So-and-so, I really appreciated the time you took to interview me today. I'm hoping to hear from you in the future. Please let me know if there's anything else I can answer in the meantime or if you need my references. What a nice email to get. Again, I don't care what decade we're in. An employer just likes to get that. You would like that if you were an employer. It's a nice thing to get from someone. It shows they care. It shows they're interested in the job, right? So that simple follow-up isn't too bad. Now understand in the end, if the employer wants to seek you out as a candidate, they're going to reach back out to you, period. You're reaching out won't necessarily tip the scale on that, although it'll help build a little more rapport, right? They're going to reach out because they want to move forward with a second interview or with a hire, right? So if you followed up the first time, do you follow up again? Sure, that's okay. But be careful in how and why you're following up, right? If you follow up once, just to thank them, and then you get a little maybe too pushy or forward, you might be coming on a little too strong. So what I typically like to do is, and my suggestion is this, you're allowed to ask some simple questions to keep the dialogue going. Hey, wanted to follow up, wanted to see, have you all made a hiring decision yet? Or see where you are in the interview process. Hope things are going well with your interviews. Real light stuff, a little invitation to see where they are at this point in time, and also letting them know I'm still on the radar. And at that point, I'm going to say if they're interested, you are definitely going to hear from them. And I would probably argue if you've done all the things that I've talked about in this video, you're probably going to be someone that they'll probably want to take a look at, because you can't do all those wonderful things and have all those wonderful things about you and not have them have some sort of interest in it, right? And I'm going to end with something I've said in other episodes and other videos, and it's a big part of my life and how I live it. When it comes to being in an interview, it is so important that you be, as I've always said in some of these episodes, your authentic self, right? Just be who you are. Trust me, you have friends like all of us do. You have family. You have people you've worked with and for, and you name it. And there are qualities you have that they like, right? And what they like is who you are genuinely and the authentic version of you. Don't try and be something you're not in the interview. It's nerve-wracking. I get it. I do. Sometimes, my God, it's almost like enough to make me cry. I'll shake somebody's hand. It's sweating. They're shaking. Oh, my God, they're holding their resume. And I want to give them a hug. I swear to God, I do. Right? And it's hard to come over that for some people. But in the end, you just want to be you. Whatever that is. Maybe you're a little shy. That's okay. Step up a little bit. Get some dialogue going. If you're the life of the party, be careful of that too. Nobody wants somebody coming in like, Mr. Cool Guy trying to do all this crazy stuff. Be respectful, keep it even keeled. But either way, be who you are. People will learn to like you, and people will want to hire you because they know you. And they know that you're comfortable in your own skin. And you can feel that. You all know this. When you're around someone you notice being genuine, and they're not putting on airs, and they're not being phony, whatever. You just feel it. You know it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, right? You don't have to be a psychologist or anything like that. You just know because you get that feeling. Let that be who you are in that interview, because then they'll grow to like you and they'll feel comfortable and say, you know what? That person may or may not have the qualifications I want, all of them. And I may not have liked this, but I also did like this, but I also know this. They were genuine, they were honest, and they were authentic. And that is what will get you, hopefully, the second interview, if not the hire. So, with that said, we're done. I will have all of this in a brief format in the description, as well as a link to a sample resume if you want to use that at least to get yourself started. And you're welcome to ask questions in the comment section if you like. I'd be happy to answer them. Again, this is an important topic for me. These decisions and how we do them determine where we go in life. Me at this age, where I am today, has been molded by how I did or didn't do in an interview when I was early in my career, right? So I'm happy to share that, and I hope you all were happy to listen. You learned a little something, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for stopping by.